we start to understand that the food company is not focused on our health. The foods that they're selling to us are addictive by design. Scientists working in labs and then testing it on people to see that which one would you not be able to put down? Which one would you finish the whole bag? Which one would you have to run back to the store and buy more? Hello everyone, welcome to Mind Blowing Health and Wellness with Violet. The reason that I make these videos is because I want everyone to understand that your physical and mental health come together to create that overall sense of well-being. If you find these kind of videos helpful, please consider subscribing. We need to understand that it's the food company's job to get us to buy foods, and I'm putting foods in air quotes here, to get us to buy these processed chemicals that they call food to eat rather than eating whole foods. So rather than going to the grocery and buying some meat and some veg and going home and cooking a meal, I'm going to the grocery store and I'm buying a box of something or a bag of something that I'm going to eat instead of whole food. We need to understand this is a business and the benefit is not for me, right? I'm not the one benefiting from this. Although at the time of doing those kind of foods, I thought I was, and I'll explain that to you later. Food companies add chemicals and manipulate the fat, sugar, salt ratios of foods to make them hyper palatable. And what that really means is that when you put it in your mouth, the reaction that your brain and your taste buds have together is so intense that you want to eat it over and over and over again. I remember this when I think about chocolate, or how I used to react to chocolate, I should say. Wow, I chased chocolate. I mean, I chased it, and I think that especially when you're talking about chocolate that has other things in it. So now we have chocolate and maybe there's caramel and maybe there's nuts. So that salt and sweet thing going on. And to me, I look back on that and I don't understand how I didn't realize that I was being manipulated. Food companies are trying their best to get you and I to spend our money on processed foods. When it comes to the nutritional value of these foods, and again, in air quotes, the reason that I'm so convinced that this is about purchases rather than about our health is that food companies will actively deceive consumers when it comes to what is in the product. Whether we're talking about the nutritional label, where they are allowed to put 0 carbohydrates, when in actuality it's 0.6, which they're allowed to do for fat as well. They can put 0 when it's 0.6. The fact that they're allowed to call sugar by different names to try to confuse people. And I think we've become more discerning now. And we know some of the names for sugar. Like we can tell that anything that ends in ose is a sugar. And we can tell that cane sugar isn't better for you than just sugar. But I'm saying we can. Just because some of us know that doesn't mean that there aren't others of us that see pure cane sugar and think, oh, wow, that's better than regular table sugar. It's the same. I feel like what food companies do is manipulative and allows us to have this false sense of we're doing something better for ourselves because, well, I didn't eat the chocolate bar. I ate a sandwich with this whole grain bread, not realizing that that whole grain bread actually and the chocolate bar had the same amount of sugar in them. So it affected my body the same way because your body behaves a certain way when it comes into contact with carbs. And we need to understand that carbohydrates break down in our body a certain way and then get used a certain way. So for my body, an apple or a chocolate bar, once it's inside and being utilized, it's the same. When we look at the history of soda, I think what the food companies have been up to becomes so apparent. And so that's the example that I want to use right now, because going back in history, Coca-Cola was called Coca-Cola because there was cocaine in it. It's something that we all know. Eventually, we realized that cocaine was addictive and it was taken out. And so now Coca-Cola had to find a way to get people to continue to drink their product, knowing that they were no longer addicted to the Coke. So let's pretend that they didn't know. But what did they turn around and do? They turned around and said, well, we can't put cocaine in it any longer. Well, we're going to put sugar and caffeine in it. Well, caffeine's addictive and so is sugar. So we took out one addictive substance and replaced it with something else. And then over the course of years, as we've learned that sugar is not great for our health, that sugar was causing us causing so many people to be overweight, and we asked Coke maybe to take the sugar out, what did they do? They made a diet version with aspartame, which we know causes cancer. Again, and it's still being sold. Aspartame is still in many products, even though we know aspartame causes cancer. My point being, when you look at the trajectory of some of the companies that we're dealing with, when you look at the products that have heart check marks on them, even though they're very high in carbohydrates, and we know that carbohydrates are related to heart disease, when you look at the products that are being sold to us as healthy when they actually are not, we start to understand that the food company is not focused on our health. And actually, what's even more apparent is that the foods that they're selling to us are addictive by design. Extra sugar in them, scientists working in labs finding that correct combination of foods and then testing it on people to see that which one would you not be able to put down? Which one would you finish the whole bag? Which one would you have to run back to the store and buy more? This is what they're trying to figure out so that they can keep us purchasing their products. I want us to all think about the fact that way back when grandma would make us her special nut fudge cookies that we all loved, or whatever your grandmother's specialty was, and we would be so happy when it was our birthday or Christmas or Easter or one of those times of the year where we know grandma's going to make the cookies. And we would eat them and we would love them and it was delicious. And guess what? Grandma wasn't trying to get us addicted to cookies. Pay attention to what was happening there. On special occasions, grandma would make that special something that she knew you guys would love, and we would eat them and we would love them, and then they wouldn't show up again for months because grandma was making us a treat. We need to be careful. Food companies are not making you treats. They're making you foods that they want you to treat as foods and eat on a regular daily basis. And if you take your treats and make them foods, they're now the staples of your diet. And what happens if treats become the staple of your diet? Well, now we're building our body based on junk food. Your muscles and all your internal organs are being based on junk food. That's what's fueling and that's what's building your body. The incomplete proteins that we are getting from processed foods rather than eating whole animal meats and products to build our body. We're using incomplete proteins. We are using incomplete fats to build and fuel our body. I really need you to stop and think about what that means for your health in the years to come. We are already seeing the results of it, right? How many of us live with constant inflammation, constant body pain? How many of us have no energy and can barely get out of bed in the morning to go to work? And then we're dying by the time we get home. How many of us are living the repercussions of not eating whole foods like we're supposed to? And why is it happening? Why are we eating only those things? Well, we might eat a regular meal one time a day, and then the rest of our day is full of these foods. Why? Why is that happening to us? Because carbohydrates, sugar, is extremely addictive. And if we don't understand that piece of information, the food companies understand it. But if us people, us individuals, don't allow ourselves to understand that piece of information, we will continue to allow ourselves to eat foods that are inappropriate, that are not building a good body, and that are harming us. I know I shouldn't be surprised that we're still eating this way. I was eating this way not too long ago. And I shouldn't be surprised because there are a subset of people walking around who absolutely know that carbohydrates are not good for them, who absolutely know that we should be minimizing our carbohydrates, and yet we'll still buy a chocolate bar, we'll still buy a milkshake, we'll still eat at Dairy, Donald, Queen, we'll still eat at a fast food restaurant. There's a subset of people who are going to do that because they don't see the immediate problem. This is going to hit me 20 years from now. Why am I going to worry about it now? And what I'm trying to help everybody to understand is that when it hits you 20 years from now, oh, wow, are you going to wish you worried about it today? Because remember, cigarette smoking hits you 20, 30 years from now. And when it does, it's horrendous. When it does, it's treatments and cancer and, right, emphysema and all these negative things. And sugar is the same thing. When it hits you 20 years from now, it's not as easy to bounce back from. Why we need to care about this is that it will hit you 20 years from now. And it's going to hurt. Why wait for that to happen? See, people still buy cigarettes today, and people are going to keep buying chocolate bars today. But it's my job to give you guys this information. So if I can help one person put down the junk food and go towards healthier food, then that's one person who's not going to have to live that horrible negative of diabetes possibly, or heart disease possibly, or Alzheimer's possibly, or the many myriad of other negatives that we can live because we're eating too many carbohydrates. And you know what? I said 20, 30 years from now. It's not 20, 30 years from now for everyone. Remember, every person is different. We have young children today who are well on their way to negative life situations, already overweight, and they're 3, 4 years old, obese, some of them by the time they're 7, 8, 9, 10, and going into their future struggling because adults, parents, are not aware that it's the carbohydrates making them fat. Not the fact that they don't run around enough. They are running around. They're kids. That's what they do. It's the carbohydrates that's doing this to them. So I do say for most people, it's going to be 20, 30 years down the road. But for some of us, unfortunately, it hits us much sooner. Look at your children. Pay attention to them. Are they doing well? Because if they're not, you do the things that you need to do to help them to do better. You know what's brutal? Is that not everything sold in grocery stores is healthy. And the worst part is that some of the things that are sold in stores for us to consume are being sold with the government fully knowing that these are dangerous products and they shouldn't be sold. And you know what? It's not everybody who would chase that food if it wasn't readily available. It's not everybody who would chase cigarettes if they were not readily available. It's not everybody who would chase alcohol if it was not readily available. Sure, there are some people who would chase it the same way there are people who chase drugs, but it's not everybody that would chase it. However, when something is endorsed, and putting it on a shelf in a grocery store is endorsing it. When something is endorsed, guess what? We will go and consume it because, well, it's there and it must be healthy, right? And that's where I'm putting this out there for everyone to think about. That's not true. We know that alcohol has a negative effect on many people. We know carbohydrates has a negative effect on many people. I would even dare to say carbohydrates and alcohol have a negative effect on everyone. But because everyone doesn't drink daily, we don't see that negative effect, right? Because most people have figured out to keep alcohol as a treat for occasional occasions. And we haven't figured that out yet with carbohydrates. And so most people do not have a problem with alcohol because the problems with alcohol happened years ago and we figured it out. This is our time to figure out carbohydrates. When I began my keto lifestyle, I'll tell you that I did try to find all the replacements for all the things that I used to eat. And honestly, in my head, I really felt like if I didn't find these things, how could I possibly do this lifestyle? I mean, it didn't make sense to me. But you know what? I wish I had someone like me to point something out that's so important now that I know it. If that lifestyle that was behind me got me to the place where I was 70 pounds overweight with all the working out and exercising, I wouldn't say working out because I didn't work out like on the gym, but like all the exercise that I did because I longboard, ski, snowboard, bicycle, like every sport you could think of, I did and was still 70 pounds overweight. If someone would have told me, and if I would have known that it was the sugar, of course, which is exactly what happened. As soon as I knew it was the sugar, my weight normalized. But I was doing what you were doing. I was trying to keep that lifestyle, but yet lose weight. And it took a little bit for me to figure out, you know what? It's one or the other. If I'm going to live a healthy life, then I need to put down these foods that caused me to be fat in the first place. And I did. And you can too. But it's about recognizing what you actually want. Do you want easy or do you want health? Because that was the other problem that I had. I hate cooking. I hate it. I still hate it. But you know what? I hate feeling sick more. So today I cook, whereas before I didn't. What is it that you actually want? I wanted my health enough that I've started cooking. And I cook daily. I don't have to cook daily, but I do. Because I realize that by cooking daily, I can make sure that what I'm eating is on track. because I'm holding myself accountable to the food that's going to fuel and build my body. And I'm willing to do that daily because I do work on myself and my happiness daily. My history of seeking sugary, quick meals and sugary, I'm saying sugary. I know they're sugary now. They tasted savory to me at the time. You think about a chicken pot pie, that's savory. You think about pizza, it tastes more savory, but they're also sugary. So chasing quick, easy meals put me in a bad situation. And changing that led to no more inflammation, no more joint pains, no more back pains, regulated my weight that I've lost 70 pounds that I was carrying extra. And you know what? I loved me before at the heavier weight. I love me today now at this weight. But I'll tell you something, not living in constant pain is a real benefit. It's a plus that I won't give away. How are you going to make your decisions about the food you're going to buy? What are you going to do to help your family to make better choices about the food that they're eating? I wish I would have known this years ago, because you know what? My daughter knows that you don't have any junk food or candy before noon, because I taught her that from since she could walk. No junk food before noon. Well, actually, since she was 4 years old, that's when she started eating junk food. Not before noon. And yes, guess what? I wish I was able also to teach her, keep your carbohydrates low, because if I would have taught her that from 4 years old, she'd be on it right now. I'm telling you guys so that you can tell your children. I'm telling you guys so you can tell it to yourself. Let's do better. Wellness warriors prioritize health over taste. So be a wellness warrior. I really hope you guys found this video helpful. If you did, please subscribe, ring the bell, do all the things so you know my next video is coming out. For those of you who might want to contribute to the production of some of these videos, I have a Patreon account. I want to thank you for watching Mind Blowing Health and Wellness with Violet. I can't wait to talk to you guys in the next video.